Well, folks, today was a day that the orange one learned his sentence in a New York City courtroom. He tried everything to get out of it, went to the Supreme Court. They were like, nah, bruh, in a 5-4 vote, you got to exhaust all of your appeals. And of course, what did he do? He went there and complained, talked about all the votes that he got, and went state by state, just constantly just ran his mouth. And then eventually he got sentenced to an unconditional discharge. That means that the orange man will get no prison time or probation as he prepares to enter the Oval Office on January 20th. A jury convicted him on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to cover up a hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential election. That's right, he wasn't in office. Of course, he didn't physically attend the sentencing. He appeared via a remote video feed from South Florida. After the 30-minute hearing, Judge Juan Merchan released Trump without any ongoing conditions, wishing him Godspeed in his second term in the Oval Office. And so, Matt, here's the deal. He is, I saw Alan Dershowitz on with nutcase right-winger Charlie Kirk by saying, this is an innocent man who's appealing. No, he's a convicted felon. And Matt, when you hear these people say that, oh, this is weak, this is nothing more than a misdemeanor, this is all trumped up, no one else would have gotten this if they weren't Donald Trump, I had to remind people, the Trump DOJ convicted and sent Michael Cohen to federal prison for the exact same crime. So it's like, I'm sorry, so it was good enough for Cohen, but not good enough for Trump. Just your thoughts on all of this.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Cohen go to prison for lying? I mean, I don't know that it was the same.
No. He actually, no, go ahead. I'm going to actually pull up the DOJ press release.
And maybe I'm misremembering, but I think that, one, these are felonies, and obviously he could have and should have given him some kind of punishment, because here's the reality of this. This is, frankly, to me, this actually undermines Merchan's position. The idea that we're going to, not erase a jury's verdict by giving him an unconditional discharge,
right.
You're giving him the felony designation, but absolutely no punishment whatsoever. And yes, I understand that the office of the president is a unique position, really, as compared to anywhere else in the world, the head of government of the United States of America. However, if a jury found him guilty, to not give him any punishment doesn't accomplish anything beyond putting the scarlet letter F on his forehead, which will not meaningfully affect anything. So, I mean, I kind of wish Merchan would have just capitulated and not done anything at all, because in some way, this is even worse. If you ask me, oh, we're going to label you a felon, but there's no meaningful punishment, specifically and particularly because this happened before he was the president. So all this immunity talk, all of that stuff is really asinine, because this jury sat in judgment long before he was reelected, and there has been ample time for there to be some kind of meaningful punishment. Like, as I've said on the show, it's not plausible to have him checking in with a probation officer in Manhattan or doing something that other people might do if they were to get some kind of punishment. I mean, there are just some practical realities that are not possible in this case. But jail time, even a week of jail or a fine. I mean, if you don't want to give him a jail time, giving him a fine, especially to someone who's a self-professed billionaire, would be some pound of flesh, if you will. But this is nothing. This is just a piece of paper, and it's a Pyrrhic victory, and it's looking like you're not capitulating to the political winds telling you, not to sentence him, and then not doing anything at all. I don't see this as a victory.
Here is the press release that on August 21st, 2018, Michael Cohen pled guilty in Manhattan federal court to 8 counts, including criminal tax evasion and campaign finance violations, more than $4 million in unreported income and $280,000 in unlawful campaign contributions. And it says here, and the $280,000 payments was to be made to silence 2 women who otherwise planned to speak publicly about their alleged affairs with a presidential candidate. That is Stormy Daniels, is one of those 2 women. So yeah, the Trump Department of Justice, Michael, sent Michael Cohen to prison for violating campaign laws on behalf of Donald Trump, and folk are mad that Donald Trump gets convicted in a state court for the same thing when he was the one behind it all.
Which goes back to our first segment when I said Americans are stupid and they have a very short memory. Now, I was the one, when I was on 910 AM WFDF here in Detroit, I was the one that broke this story when the story first came out about Stormy Daniels making these allegations, okay? And I know some people want to call Stormy Daniels a hussy, but if it wasn't for Stormy Daniels, we wouldn't have this conviction. She actually helped bring Donald Trump down. Michael Cohen also, after Michael Cohen went to prison, and right before he went to prison, he testified in Congress and said, if you keep defending Donald Trump, if you keep working on behalf of Donald Trump, you're going to end up just like me. OK, he said that before he went to prison. But it's also important to note, even though the initial infraction, which was the initial payments that Michael Cohen made to Stormy Daniels, the $130,000, he took out the line of credit. That happened before the 2016 election. Donald Trump was sitting in the White House writing payments to Michael Cohen to pay him back, and that was the falsification of business records. So you have the initial infraction, which was before the 2016 election, and then you have Donald Trump actually in office writing checks to Michael Cohen to pay him back, overpaying him and disguising it as legal fees when it was really paying back the hush money. OK, so it's important for people to understand that. Now, I agree with Matt. I think Judge Juan Merchan, who handled this overall, I think, pretty well. I think there should have been a fine. There could have been a fine. This is a Class E felony, lowest level felony in the state of New York. It could have been a fine of up to $5,000 for each count. I think there should have been some type of fine to send a message to Donald Trump, who is still defiant today and show no remorse whatsoever. Just like that other punk ass bitch, Rudy Giuliani, that you're about to talk about as well, to show him, look, you're not above the law. There's still consequences. So I think there should have been a fine. But, hey, this is the only conviction. And we have to Alan Bragg. I take my hat off to Alan Bragg. A lot of people thought that this wasn't going to work. You should go with another case first, things like this. They have to. They can't decide on a conference call, hey, who should go with the first case? No, the statute of limitations was running out on this case, and he had to make a decision. Do we go with it or don't go with it? He made the right decision.
You know, Noah, to Matt's point about, giving nothing, no real sentence, it actually aids all of these right-wingers who are like, well, this was all a waste of time if nothing was going to actually happen. And so, yeah, and I think what happened here was, and this is the problem that I have, you don't get immunity until you're the president. Not elect, not before, not when you're out. And so I just think this was total capitulation, and there should have been something, but I still stand by the fact his punk ass should have been indicted. He should have been prosecuted. He should have been convicted. And all these people who are now mad, and then I love all these people like, actually, he stands a good chance of getting thrown out, whatever. Okay, good luck with that. But the bottom line is he did it. And we know he did it, Nola.
Yeah. In the broader sense, it's another dent in democracy, right? It's another dent in the democratic system, in that it really does feel like this one person can get away with any and all things when everyone else around him seems to pay the consequences. But when you kind of invert the triangle a little bit, it also further dents the reputation of the criminal justice institution. It's already struggling, not to mention the fading reputation of the Supreme Court. And now you have this. It makes the criminal justice system seem toothless. And you're right. It does give the right more fodder. It makes Trump seem even more invincible, which makes them buy into the narrative and the myth of him being invincible. And it also, it sets a bad precedent. And I'm from day one, we've had conversations, Roland, going all the way back to the national security case regarding the documents. That's a situation that I am still reeling over. This is that's a very serious situation. And this person is going to be the president of the United States again in another 10 days. And I say all that to say that I understand the framers thought about this country from a moralistic standpoint. I think, when you talk about norms, when you talk about values, when you talk about mores, a lot of that hinges on morality, and that you're already assuming that a person who's going to sit in an office of the presidency is going to have, that the standards are going to be so high that there's no way that these norms and values that that there's no way that a person would act in a certain way. They have circumvented every single law. They found every single loophole to make American democracy seem fickle, to make it seem as if it is this kind of old and dying thing. And in many ways, they've proven that point. So how do we counteract that? That's where I'm going with this. What needs to happen institutionally to where not every single norm, not every single law, you can find a loophole? Because if we continue down this road, what's the point? What's the point of having a criminal justice system when Donald Trump can literally get away with everything?
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free to download, free to use, next generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you helped build Fanbase. And we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation A crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.